Good day and welcome to the Think React Lead radio show. I'm your host, Dom Faussette, executive coach and leadership speaker with Think React Lead, here with you on Intelligent Talk 960 The Patriot, KKNT. Well, folks, it's been a week since we last caught up. I'm happy to see you, or obviously I can't see you, but you catch the gist of what I'm trying to get to. I'm happy to know that you are here. If you're here on Instagram, Facebook, it's Dom Faussette. If you're a listener, thank you very much for tuning in as you have, and I appreciate all of your continued support. You know what? There is power in words. And we've all heard that phrase. But do we know what I'm going to say from my perspective? The things that come out of your mouth could cost you money. Yes, I'm a speaker. The things that come out of my mouth make me money. But sometimes our emotions get in the way and get the best of us. And you're probably asking to yourself, Dom, where in the world are you going with this? Just trust me on this one. You're going to want to continue to listen to what we're talking about. We have a guest in studio, but before I make the introduction, there are some things that we do day to day. There are some things that we say day to day. There's things that we post about other people on social media. And did you know that those things could land you with a lawsuit, could put you in court, and just all the things that go along with that? It's not fun. It's not like going to, Chuck E. Cheese or anything like that. Like, it's just a different situation. I'm an ex-cop. I don't like going to court. But I was out with some guys, and we're all hanging around cars and talking because we were at a car meet. I forgot what it was about, but we were there. And I happened to run into a guy who happens to be an e-commerce attorney. Just think about that for a second. An e-commerce attorney. So we all do things online, and he's going to explain e-commerce and all that jazz. But he basically is. I mean, this wouldn't have been a thing 20 years ago. But here we are practicing law. Definitely not me, but my guest. Go with me on this one. And many of you, like me, now I'm talking about you and I, are potentially putting ourselves in a situation where we could find ourselves in hot water. So when I found out that Raees Mohamed is an e-commerce attorney, and I thought to myself, my audience needs to hear this. Forget about, this would be cool content for you guys to hear. No, this is important. Let me explain to you who Raees is. He's a founding partner at RM Warner PLC, a corporate and internet law firm that caters to startups and entrepreneurs. So many of you listening and many of you watching. His clients are serial entrepreneurs, e-commerce businesses, startups, social media influencers. Understand that Raees has represented victims of internet defamation and harassment around the country and world. Raees is also an adjunct professor of law at the Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law in Phoenix. Raees enjoys playing guitar, painting, and loves sports cars, and that's where we met. Sir, thank you very much for joining us today. I greatly appreciate it. You know what? Dude, how in the world did you get into being an e-commerce attorney?
I figured it was a natural flow from being in a punk rock band to e-commerce law.
I like
That's basically how it happened.
Okay. I like the progression of that.
Yeah, that's right. It's, honestly, about 10 years ago when we kind of set sail on this area of law, Facebook was, I don't even think was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, social media wasn't a thing. And it was people just launching businesses on the internet. And I'm an entrepreneur by soul and spirit. And so for me, it was, hey, look at the next best thing. Look at where the law is going. Look at where the most issues are likely to come, rather than what's hot now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of just how it unfolded. It was more and more issues with people conducting themselves online, particularly in business, but also in the private world. And that's kind of how it fell in.
Now, you've been doing this for how long?
10 years.
You don't look like you're old enough to be doing this for 10 years. Keep doing what you're doing, bud.
Thank you.
Now, I really want to jump into the meat of this. And my reason for wanting to jump right into the topics is because this hour is going to go by very fast. And I truly believe that some of the things that you're going to say, if people really take heed to what you do say, it's going to save their business down the road. I want to talk about, and I prefaced this prior to you coming on, but talk about internet defamation, and cyberbullying, aka harassment, what it is and what to do when it happens. And I know you're going to go deep on this, but can you kind of scratch the surface? Because I think we think cyberbullying, we as non-attorneys in this space, we think it's something where I'm being mean, but I think it doesn't take much to be a cyberbully.
Right. So if we talk more generically about cyberbullying, you find that it's actually a lot more than what people think, and it doesn't take a lot to cross the line. For example, you might be in a legitimate relationship with somebody, boyfriend, girlfriend, or even spouses can end up bullying and harassing each other, and it's very, very easy to hit the slippery slope. And it usually happens. The bullying part usually happens when there's some unwanted communication, right? It's very similar to being on the playground, right? Think of people, if you have kids, or when you were an adolescent, you were in 4th or 5th grade, and somebody was on the swing set and you wanted to get on and you wanted the attention. What did you do? You pushed them off, or you called them names,
right?
Or you made them, a victim, right? And it's the same thing online, and it usually starts with some sort of basic banter, and it doesn't have to start as the vicious, accusations or spreading of falsity. It can start as basic banter, and it usually is with harassment. Particularly, it's just constantly being in somebody's business online. So you're continuously sending them direct messages through some social media platform. You are constantly, and again, this is unwanted, right? And we've commonly heard it actually once people date, actually with all of the dating apps now, it's very, very easy to have the first date, maybe second date, and then the relationship falls off. And the next thing you know, there's one person in the relationship, if it was ever a relationship, that just can't let go. And so they're constantly harassing the other person, which is really just unwanted communications consistently over time. And it doesn't take very long before that spirals into, what I'm calling the police, or I need to do something. And that's sort of the harassment element of it.
Okay, and that's more. It sounds like that's more of the relational aspect of it. Can harassment take place from? So we're not talking about a physical relationship. We've gone on a date type of thing, but just a potential business relationship.
So harassment can also, interestingly enough, we see it in the business realm, usually in the employee-employer relationship, or maybe co-employees. It can also be in business. Usually in business, the harassment side of things doesn't happen as much because people are more worried about their reputation naturally. So they're thinking twice, or there's a manager, or there's a few tiers.
Okay.
But that's in another bucket relating to defamation, right? And that's where things get really interesting. But the harassment part of it, it's one of those things where you just need somebody to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, are you aware of what you're doing? Do you know that this is harassment? And we've seen everything. I mean, just yesterday, I had a consultation with the woman whose current boyfriend accidentally allowed his ex to get a hold of his phone.
Oh.
And
doesn't sound like it's going. It sounds like it's going down a slippery slope pretty quick.
Slippery is one way to say it. It was bad to the extent that stuff got onto a public website, and they were more than compromising videos. And so this is the world we live in. This is unfortunately the world we live in. We live in another web. People treat it as another dimension.
Correct.
They don't understand the conduct that they're doing has greater implications. They think they can kind of live in, hey, I'm 1,000 miles away, or I'm in another country, I'm untouchable, and it's just not how things work.
Now let's talk defamation. What is defamation?
Right. So defamation, again, it's a function of state law, so definition varies, but in a nutshell, it's a false statement published to a third party that's not privileged. We can talk about what privilege means, that causes another person harm. Right. And so if you think about it, it's pretty easy to trip up with those elements. Right. And there are all kinds of protections. Obviously, we defend the First Amendment. You have a right to free speech. But people don't understand that the First Amendment is an individual right that citizens and private individuals have against the government. So there is no right to free speech to defame someone. Defamation is an exception to your First Amendment right for free speech. So defamation on the internet is, in one sense, no different than defamation in the old school days of publishing an article in a magazine,
right,
or standing on a corner in a street and saying something false that other people hear. The problem with internet defamation is the virality.
Okay.
And the inability to contain it or do damage control
Right.
once it happens. In fact, many cases that we get, the person who defamed someone, who said something false, and they want to retract it, they can't.
It's impossible now.
It's impossible.
It's shared.
And there are even websites out there like Ripoff Report, which is based in Phoenix, who specifically state as part of their user terms, once you get posted on that site, they will not take it down. They will not. Even if you go to them and you beg and you plead, they have an arbitration process. So you either need a court order declaring the content to be defamation, or you need to go through their own arbitration process. And I've done it, and it's a legit arbitration. It's not pay and get out of jail free. But you have to go through a formal process where somebody says, yes, this is defamatory, and therefore violates our terms, and therefore we're taking it down. So that's the problem we're dealing with.
When we come back, I want to find out what is a very, let's say, minuscule defamation case or an example that you have to the other end of the spectrum. Folks, understand that these are things that I don't know. That's why I brought Raees here to educate everyone on the power of your words and what you put out there. And one of the things I've always said is, if it makes you feel good, and this is from the corporate space, if it makes you feel good, don't send the email, right? It's the same thing with your post. If you're referencing somebody else and it makes you feel good, you guys and gals know the feel good I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, oh, this person's so awesome, they're great. Not that kind of feel good, but that one that says, ha, gotcha. Yeah, once you do that, the joke, my friends, is definitely going to be on you if that person decides to, let's say, hire Raees to come do what he does best. So, folks, again, if you're just tuning in, my name is Dom Faussette here in studio with Raees Mohamed, and this is the Think React Lead radio show, and we are on 960, the Patriot KKNT. When we come back, we are going to talk about the furtherance, if you will, of defamation, where it could affect you in your business, and maybe if you're doing it now or have done it in the past, and could that come back to bite you in the butt? Again, I'm Dom Faussette with the Think React Lead radio show, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Think React Lead radio show. I'm your host, Dom Faussette, executive coach and leadership speaker with Think React Lead, here with you on Intelligent Talk 960, the Patriot KKNT. Folks, we are in studio with Raees Mohamed, and he's an e-commerce attorney. Obviously, he's more than that, but I don't want to give the bio every single time that we talk, because the information that we're about to, he's going to provide us is life-changing, business-changing, if you will. Sir, let's continue this defamation talk.
Yes. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of the extremes, where are the common issues that we see. And we get calls and emails about this 5 to 10 times a day. I mean, it's a really hot area of law for us. And again, this is not traditional defamation happening in a newspaper. It's happening on the internet. And the problem is, even other lawyers don't know how to stop it, and much of it's out of your control. But, one extreme example of defamation on the minuscule side is our wonderful world of reviews, right? They're really easy to do. Google reviews, Yelp reviews, or reviewing your doctor or dentist. It's very, very easy. You go to an appointment, maybe something didn't catch you right. The famous example that I like to use, which is very, very common, is somebody goes to a dentist, the coverage on their insurance is not what they thought, or somebody at their office told them, which is not their fault.
Right.
And they get a bill, or, something's hurting a little bit more. And so that opens the gate. So what does this person do? John Doe? John Doe goes to the internet on dentalreviews.com or Yelp or Google and lets it rip. And usually it's, I think you said it before, it's emotional.
Oh, yes.
It is their therapy session. That's what people think. And they think it's okay to just say whatever you want. It's on the internet.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech.
Right.
I'll say whatever I want. Again, we talked about this earlier. There's no freedom of speech to harm somebody with your words, to defame somebody. That doesn't exist. And so they'll write something like, listen, this, and I've seen some extremes, right? Even within a review. This dentist pulled the wrong tooth. This dentist gave me a crown on the wrong tooth. Or they committed insurance fraud. I mean, you're accusing somebody of fraud.
So you can't say they pulled even if they pulled the wrong tooth, you can't go out there and say they pulled the wrong tooth?
You can. See, here's the thing. Truth is an absolute defense.
Okay.
So if you don't have great bedside manners, if you don't, or if you committed malpractice,
right,
there's no plugging those holes.
Correct.
If you're a professional, and I deal with a lot of licensed professionals, even other lawyers have hired me, right? If you do something and it is a legitimate mistake, and somebody publicizes that, then that's a problem. That's a problem for you. But what I'm talking about is a fictional story that somebody feels that they can just go and rant about, and knowing that it will cause harm, right? The reason you post a false review is because you know somebody's going to read it, and that buyers are going to make an educated decision after they read your review.
It makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good.
Exactly.
It makes you feel like, yes, I won this battle.
I got that off my chest.
But it, that's a simple example where, hey, this dentist, really screwed me or created, a fraudulent insurance claim, billed for things that they didn't do. Now that's there. So what do you do about that, right? And you're limited in your recourse. And I'll talk about things that you can do, but that's one variation. The other variation is all the way on extreme end, where you have business competitors who will post false advertisements, which is trade libel, which is another form of defamation, talking about a product or service in a way that is defamatory and false. And now on the wonderful world of e-commerce, you can do things that impact people's web traffic or search engine results, 100%.
Wow.
And there are people who specialize in these things, and we call it black hat SEO. And so I can tank your web traffic. I can sort of take over the funneling effect, 100%. We see it all the time.
So like without getting my passwords, you can just go in there and input some bug or some code, and I don't get anything from my site?
It's actually a little easier than that. You don't have to hack or take over someone's site. Hacking somebody's website is arguably illegal. There's a federal statute, the CFAA, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which makes it a felony, and there are civil penalties, and you can sue somebody for that.
Okay.
By the way, that also equally applies to unauthorized access to a phone. So remember I talked about the people that are in a relationship and somebody gains access to somebody's phone or email? That's illegal, and there are civil fines for that as well.
So just if I grab your phone or an iPhone and I click on the pictures, because I don't need to have a code to get into the pictures, and I start taking pictures, which I've done several times just of myself, stupid faces,
it's unlawful. It's 100%. On top of being an invasion of privacy and other torts, it's 100% unlawful. Now, the question is, what is the damage that flows from that?
Right. Okay.
But in the example of competitors going at it, these are people usually in business, especially with e-commerce sites. Your traffic, your web domain, your rank authority, your reputation online is everything, right?
It is.
That's how you do business.
Of course.
Brand queries, the number of brand queries you get, the better your SEO is going to be, right? When you want to search for a particular, internet defamation lawyer, or, exotic automobile detailers, and I've represented a number of them. Similar issue where somebody has a business transaction that they didn't like and just spews hatred. But talking about business to business people,
correct.
The false reviews were like, hey, I'm going to pretend to be a customer. Oftentimes they don't even go.
I've heard of people doing that.
Very, very common, especially on Amazon.
Yes.
Buying or not even buying a product and posting a fake review. Amazon now has at least a channel to review those things.
Okay.
But still happens quite a bit. But talking about, the web traffic issue. So, you can, and I don't want to promote this, but there are ways that people can hire these black hat SEO, manipulators, and black hat is exactly what it sounds like. It's the opposite of white hat. It's illegitimate methods. Sometimes they could be illegal, where they can steal or divert your web traffic or create these phantom sites with false information and drive traffic to their product or service. And so you can imagine, as a lawyer trying to discover this, it's complicated.
A lot of people do. So I don't, but I've met people that have just openly said, yes, this person has this site. What we're going to do is we're going to put a plug in, and when people go to their site, it's going to divert to your site.
Yeah, that's...
I've never done it. I've heard people make it a practice.
So the courts are catching up with the law in this space, and this is what makes it difficult to be a litigator in this space. For those lawyers that are interested in the spaces, you have to convince the judge that this is an unlawful interference, and you have to use the precedential case law, which often talks about interfering with the business relationship in a different context.
Okay.
But the reality is, if you're spending, some of my clients have $500,000 to $1 million ad budget.
Right.
It could be wiped out like that if somebody knows what they're doing, and you're a competitor. and you know how to divert the traffic in an improper way. I'm not talking about having a better site or having better advertising. I'm talking about using malicious tactics to take somebody down.
Like in one of the Die Hard movies where they put the cones up so the trucks don't go down that street.
That's
or
exactly
they go down
right.
Another street.
That's
because
exactly
they gotta
right.
rob the bank. Man. All right, folks. We're going to come back, and when we come back, we're going to talk about e-commerce businesses. What is it? How to start? How to improve probability of success? My mind's being blown right now because there are things that and that I've done, and when I use the phone reference, grabbing my daughter's phone, taking a bunch of pictures of myself and my son, but that, obviously, we're not going to get in trouble with that. But if you see how simple it is, as I stated at the top of the hour, to get in trouble by the things that you do on social media. And like Raees said, it's the courts are starting to catch on. So what you do today, you might end up paying for 5 years from now. I don't know what the statute of limitations are, but you could be in hot water. I'll just say that. I'm excited to come back and talk about the e-commerce. So when we do, folks, again, this is Dom Faussette, Executive Coach Leadership Speaker here on the Think React Lead radio show at 960 The Patriot, KKNT, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Think React Lead radio show. I'm your host, Dom Faussette, Executive Coach and Leadership Speaker with Think React Lead, here with you on Intelligent Talk 960 The Patriot, KKNT. All right, folks, we are going to just jump right into it. Normally I have a story of some sort to add to what we're talking about, but we have a lot of information to gather, so we're just going to go right back in. Like I said, we're going to talk about e-commerce businesses. What is it? How to start, how to improve probability of success. Sir, the floor is yours.
So I think it's important to understand what e-commerce even is. And some people, automatically think, well, I have a web store. I have a website and I sell products and services on it, right? And that's an example of e-commerce for sure. But what if you're a traditional, let's say you're a lawyer or you're a doctor. How are you generating your leads, right? How are you generating business? Mm-hmm. In one sense, you have to operate, and at least in 2020 now, you have to be thinking about your e-commerce brand, your internet brand. You have to be thinking about yourself as an online brand. Mm-hmm. How do people find you? I promise you that of all our clients, the most successful ones are, even if they have a brick and mortar location, they're thinking internet brand.
Right.
And so I would argue that e-commerce is anything that relates to products and services or finding products and services online. That's a very broad bucket. So for those of you who are listening who may have a desire to sell a product or service, or you want to start your own brand, this is perfect for you, right?
Correct.
A side hustle, if you will.
Of course.
And you don't have to have anything fancy, but let's say you have a t-shirt company. Mm-hmm. And you're a t-shirt company, you want to promote whatever it is that you want to promote. You have a slogan, you have a trademark. The first thing you do is you have to sketch out a plan. And just like anything in business, you're a business guy, you have to study a strategy. Like, where are my customers? Where's my buyer base? And sketch out what an ideal customer looks like, and almost even map it out. I would write it down in a spreadsheet or in a Word document and figure out a price range. You do your business diligence, and then you figure out where your ideal buyers are. And that's where you start developing an e-commerce strategy, is you start saying, okay, where do I find these customers? If I'm targeting 25 to 35-year-old males who are into sports cars with my automobile branded shirts and hats.
Correct.
And I'm super local. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. How do I get this off the ground? Well, you're going to find, first of all, search terms that meet those requirements, right? And this is where you get into the ability to spend money in a way that doesn't yield results, or spend money in a way that really improves your ROI, which is the right team. And you can be a one-man or a one-lady show and really kill it in this space because everything's outsourced, right?
Yes, it is.
Your fulfillment can be outsourced, like fulfillment by Amazon. Mm-hmm. You don't need to buy. Gone are the days where you'd buy 1,000 T-shirts and they'd rot in the garage.
Right, you sit behind yourself.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, there are people who will do the drop shipping for you. There are people who will fulfill the orders for you. It's just putting the team together, mm-hmm. And that's an important part of e-commerce. And so, getting the traffic to your site, or maybe you're using another existing web platform like eBay or Amazon. You want to be able to push traffic, and that's where you get into like specialized world of SEO and advertising. Assuming for a second you have your own website or you have your own blog, and you want to promote advertising on the space or driving traffic there through advertising, you want to pick somebody or a team of people who have a proven track record. And this is the hard part, because everybody says, I know what I'm doing when it comes to internet advertising.
They think. And I'm going to pause right there. For anybody watching, somebody, and I made this mistake. Somebody I knew who I hired made other companies millions of dollars. What I didn't realize is these companies were athletic brands. I'm not an athletic brand. I'm not even an athlete. So when it came time to building mine, it failed, right? So when going back to what you were saying, do your research on the people that you are hiring. Interview them. Interview 5 different companies, 5 different CEOs, owners, whatever, before you proceed. Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's the advertising base. Like anything else, you want to be diligent.
Right.
The other area where we come in from a legal standpoint, this is getting into improving your likelihood of success, is influencer marketing.
Okay.
Right? Influencer marketing and advertising that is compliant. So what is influencer marketing? Well, you have a friend maybe has 5,000 or 10,000 Instagram followers, and you have this going with the sports t-shirt or sports car analogy, where you're promoting a particular brand that you created. And you have a friend who has, let's say, or you have Dom who's got 80,000 followers on Instagram, and there are people that follow him that are into sports cars and sportswear. Right. Hey, Dom, can I pay you $500? Post this 3 or 4 times, promote my shirt, my brand with a link. You say, yeah, easy money. What do I have to do? That is an ever-increasing area of business strategy that people are underutilized. But the problem is people who utilize that also get into problems with false advertising, with defamation, with FTC compliance, which is a whole nother animal.
That sounds scary.
They don't know what to do, and the FTC has fined some major, DJ Khaled has been fined by the FTC. There's been, all you have to do is FTC fine celebrity, and there's a list of like 10 or 20 who've been hit because they don't know what they're doing. They don't have the experts. Just somebody said, hey, just say this and get some followers or listeners.
Folks, when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation, and then we're going to talk about common mistakes when starting a business and how to avoid them. Again, I'm Dom Faussette in studio with Raees, Mohamed, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Think React Lead radio show. I'm your host, Dom Faussette, executive coach and leadership speaker with Think React Lead, here with you on Intelligent Talk 960, the Patriot KKNT. Folks, for those of you that are out there on Facebook, Instagram, or even listening to this, one, thank you very much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate that. And I do see the questions coming in, but we have so much to cover that right now we're unable to answer the questions. But if you really want to get those questions answered, you're more than welcome to schedule a consultation with Raees Mohamed. And if he's anything like I am, consultations aren't free. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah,
Sir, where can they find you?
You can check us out, first of all, if you're watching this on Instagram or anywhere, just RM Warner Law, rmwarnerlaw.com. We actually put out a lot of free information also on our social, on our Instagram.
You're very active on your Instagram, by the way, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you follow us at RM Warner Law on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And if there's something pressing and you want to talk to us, you can just schedule a consultation through our website. It's super easy, and you can talk to me or my partner.
I love it. I love it. Thank you very much. All right, let's jump back into this. Now, e-commerce, we covered that, but there's some other areas I want to cover, and it was a high-level overview, folks. So if you're listening or watching, it was a high-level overview. Just understand that. Common mistakes when starting a business and how to avoid them. This is huge. Let's talk about that.
So this is an area that's really near and dear to me because it is so easy, especially with side hustles. It is so easy to start, but start wrong. And you don't have to be perfect, but you have to be thinking about formalities. And as a lawyer, that's what we counsel our client to do, is be aware of business formalities. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite examples is the friend or friends who get into business with one another.
Oh, that's the worst.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm about to say. And it's always, it's like people who like each other and then move in together.
Yeah.
And they can't stand each other.
Money comes around, right.
It's almost the analogy, right? So we have to be aware of business formalities. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is business is a formal relationship. You're not doing business as friends. You're doing business as business partners. And so all the formalities come in. So the very first thing you do, you have a great product, a great service, whatever you're doing, you have an idea, you have to paper it up. And you can't just paper it up by writing on the back of an envelope. You don't want to be a de facto partnership. You actually want a formal entity. You want a corporation, or you want an LLC, depending on what state you're in and what the formalities are and how easy or difficult things are. Put it on paper. Create a formal business entity. Protect yourself from personal liability. Also, you have the opportunity to structure partnership agreements that make sense, that talk about when money can be taken out, how much money you have to put in, what happens if this thing goes belly up, who gets what. And those are the formalities that people forget about. And it's really, really easy to do because not everyone has access to a lawyer, or not every lawyer charges reasonable fees. But it's up to you as a business owner to say, you know what, let's make this formal.
Oh, everybody has access to a lawyer. Are you willing to spend the money on it?
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
Everybody, you all have access.
That's a better way to put it.
Is it important to you?
That's a better way to put it. Look, I've seen people wearing some expensive shoes, expensive gear, driving expensive cars, and have zero legal protection. And so that's your number one priority, is talk to somebody who understands your marketplace. But that person should be a lawyer who can put this together for you, even if you're a solo shop, but especially with business partners and friends. So the number one rule is document. Put your business agreements together in writing. So you start with owners, co-owners.
Correct.
And then you branch out from there. If I have a vendor, if I have somebody, intellectual property is another one that you see people running into problems with, especially today.
I love it.
Yeah, right. So you see these headlines with celebrities getting hit with fines because they used a photograph that somebody randomly took, a paparazzi took. They're like, the hell with you, I'm wealthy.
Right.
No, it's copyright infringement because the photographer is the author. They own it. You have to then buy it or license it from them. We see this online all the time with social media. People think I can just use this jingle, I can use this picture. Again, formalities. Do I have the ability? Do I have the right to use it? And even if you're going to take a risk, take an educated risk. Don't gamble it.
So I just launched a brand called Speaker 33, SPKR33, and it's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time, but I decided to trademark it. I decided to, do all the business stuff, and that took probably about 4 months. And how often do you see somebody have this, they get this fire in them to start a thing. They put all the name out there on Instagram. They do all the things that are not the right things. They don't do all the educated things. How often do you see that where brand identity is taken because it's not licensed?
All the time.
Okay.
All the time. I had a client consult with me just a couple weeks ago. Awesome concept in the credit space. And the first thing I said to them was, they're asking me about issue number 1, but then I see issue number 2 and 3, and I say, hey, pump the brake, guys. Like, you have this issue. You can't even be using this name. Like, oh, what are you talking about? And sure enough, you can't make this up. 2 weeks later, they get a cease and desist demand from a lawyer somewhere in New York, basically saying, hey, my client owns this brand. It's causing confusion. We're in the same space. Like, how do you not know this? Well, these aren't things that you can necessarily Google. Right? Some people don't even search to see what other similar names or brands out there. It takes a deeper analysis. But unfortunately, they had to then be in the unfortunate situation of either scrapping the brand that they just spent all this time and money marketing, or coming to some arrangement. And so that's a cost of doing business, right? You need to be diligent. And the other thing is business owners tend to take things personally. So when you tell them you can't use this name, like, what do you mean I can't use this name? I was here first. Like, no, you weren't, dude. No, you weren't.
No. Somebody one, you're 25.
Yeah.
2, it's been around for 28 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's not happening.
Not going to happen. What are your? I know we talked about common mistakes, but starting a business, a lot of people want to start the side hustle, as many call it. Is now a good time? Why or why not?
I love the side hustle. I love the side hustle for 2 reasons. Number 1, if you can't do the side hustle, you're not going to be able to do it when you jump into it cold water. That's my rule of thumb, because at least with the side hustle, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a side thing. So you have some source of income already. Maybe you have, a 9-to-5 job or even a part-time job, and something's generating income so that you can go and experiment and do this side hustle, whether it's on the weekend or in the evenings. Particularly with the economy the way it is now. I mean, you're talking about 30 million unemployed in the United States.
Now's the time.
This is the time. We just had Metro Center Mall, you probably heard, closed down.
Man, if I had the money to buy that place.
I know. And so it's going to be redeveloped. But all those jobs, what are people doing? And some places I've heard through the grapevine, people are just saying, look, just take my inventory, man. I don't even know what to do. Just whatever. I'm done. I'm upside down. Just take it.
Pennies on the dollar.
And why don't you set up an e-commerce store? Or if you're an employee at the store and you know merchandise, maybe you worked in a sneaker store. You know what? You know that marketplace. You can flip sneakers. That's a thing.
Oh, people anybody listening or watching, you know more than you're giving yourself credit for. Are you willing to put in the work? And just to recap the business partner thing, don't partner with somebody because you are afraid to fail on your own. See how much you can do on your own. See how much you can outsource so that when your company hits, the money's yours. And you don't have to deal with emotions. There are zero emotions in business. Sir, the floor is yours.
I would just underscore that, especially during a side hustle, it's easy to not really know what you're doing and try to get involved with too many people. Look, it's a trial and error situation, but this is the time to do the trial and error. The economy's America's got an amazing economy. I believe in our strong economy.
Definitely.
This is an unprecedented time. It's not 2008 or 2009 where the fundamentals of the market have changed because of a fraud fundamentally. This is a time where there's a lot of uncertainty and unemployment. But this is the time to build a side hustle. Start small, whatever it is. Like you said, you're not giving yourself enough credit if you know the sneaker market. But the same thing could be said about anything. It could be said about cars. It could be said about clothing. It could be said about beauty. For anybody that worked in a retail beauty shop or doing makeup, I had several clients contact me about this. Hey, I know this product or market really well. Great, you have an outlet. Get on YouTube, get on Instagram, tell people what you know. Partner with the brand. And before you know it, they've got a small following. They get sponsorships. And there's so many avenues. You just have to do.
And you have to ask. I'm working on 2 partnerships right now, or two sponsorships. One is for a German car manufacturer. And I just was in there on the showroom floor, and I asked, who's your TV guy? Who's your radio guy? And they pointed, we talked, and they said, hey, let's work something out. A clothing store I've been going, my whole family, all the men in my family go to this one clothing store. I asked, hey, can we work on a sponsorship? I think people are just afraid to ask. One, social media, in my opinion, is like a billboard on the side of the road. If you bought a billboard on the side of the road, would you share, and you paid for that space, would you share everybody else's content on it? The answer is no. Your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikTok, everything. Don't share concepts and ideas that other people provide, because all you're doing is helping them build their brand. You, my friends, have a brand. Put your message out there. Start with 30-second videos on Instagram. Sir, go ahead.
And you said it nicely. The internet, social media, TikTok, they're way better than a billboard. How many people are going to see a billboard, honestly? And how $10,000 a month for a basic billboard here in the Metro Phoenix area?
Right.
Okay. You can start with $0. How much does it cost to launch Instagram?
Free.
$0.
Right.
How much does it cost to start TikTok?
Free.
$0. Facebook. So again, you're going to do this stuff anyway. If you're passionate about it, start creating. Don't worry about perfection. I mean, we're in the studio. We've got cell phones. We've got cameras.
We have everything.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
It does not have to be perfect.
And it shouldn't be perfect. And I think today, especially, people are okay with shaky phones and slightly blurry pictures. It's okay. You're telling a story. This is an outlet. You can get to major production later. And the other problem with social media, the problem that people don't realize is they see other people who are doing very, very well or high scale. Mm-hmm. Listen, they started from zero.
They did not start there. Do you remember your first social media video?
I 100% do.
So do I. What was it like? Where were you?
Yeah, it was Rachel, who's probably watching this, my PR person in my firm, who literally had an older edition iPhone. I'm like, just turn the camera on, let's go. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. Let's just do this. Unscripted. It's still on YouTube. It's one of my first videos, but it's in my office. It's me looking like a goofball, just doing my thing. But you know what? You have to do that.
You do.
No one's going to walk into a professional studio and shoot the first time and hit it. And being in this world, how many iterations you have to do even when you have the equipment.
So for those of you that have purchased the equipment, you know what I'm talking about. You spend thousands of dollars on camera equipment, and then you don't know how to use it, so you don't use it, and you default to your phone. My first video was me in the back of my pickup truck. It was daylight outside, but I'm in the garage, so the shadowing, you couldn't even see me. And here I am thinking I'm doing this video.
Right.
But that was 3-4 years ago. And even you talked about walking into a studio. This is what I see with people that pay to be on Fox and CBS, NBC, or even coming sometimes into the radio station. They think they're ready till they get there. Those lights and those cameras start looking at you, and people start sweating. Yep. Obviously, you've done this before. You're professional. But I want to, as we start to wrap up, you mentioned now's the time to start. What's one reason people just don't start? They have the idea, they just don't start.
They're afraid. They're thinking, I'm going to fail. I don't want my friends to see what I'm doing. I don't want people to judge me. Clear the table for a second. Your life is about you. What do you want to do? Do you want to work for the man or the woman for 20 years and say, I wish I did this? Regret, right? Regret will be the thing that gets you up and says, let me get moving. But fear is the number one reason people don't start. I don't know where to start. I'm scared. I don't want to lose a bunch of money. I'm afraid of what people might say. I don't look good. None of that matters.
You know what? There's so much that we can do for free. I had a job at a corporate gig. I had a good job. I had zero plans on leaving. Zero. But I started doing videos for my employees just because I couldn't get them off their phones. And then it turned into a thing, turned into a book, turned into a YouTube channel. And folks, when opportunities come your way, I stutter. You guys know I have Tourette's, but somebody said, Dom, you should be on radio. I met them on stage in Dallas. It just so happened that they lived here. And once I looked into it, trust me, my first 3 radio shows, I was nervous because there's a production team, there's lights, and no guest. But you know what? You make it happen. Your first appearance in court, representing somebody. How'd you feel there?
Yeah, 100%. I remember still, this is before iPads and all that. I actually brought my laptop. I was always savvy. I hated paper.
Right.
I remember unplugging my Mac, bringing it up, putting it on the stand, and the judge is looking at me like, really, dude? Really?
You're that kid?
You have a laptop in my courtroom? Of course, now, everybody.
Right.
But I remember just looking at, and it was like cactus in my throat.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't talk. And I'm just, Your Honor,
Right.
And then when I sat down, I'm like, man, I want to do that again.
So, folks, like I said before, that was a very, very fast hour. But Raees Mohamed came in here and he just dropped crazy knowledge. I suggest that you go back and watch this. I can't wait to have my team edit all the videos to get it out there. But thank you, sir, for coming out.
My pleasure.
If you're tuning in, which I know you are. This is the Think, React, Lead radio show. I am your host, Dom Faussette, executive coach and leadership speaker, here with you on Intelligent Talk 960 The Patriot. Have a fantastic week.